Well, throughout her life, Queen Elizabeth II met with 15 different prime ministers and dozens of world leaders. Over her 70-year reign, she lived through a transforming world, one that could see more changes as her son Charles III takes the throne. So we want to bring in Hillary Fordwich, who joins me now. She's a global business consultant and a British Royals commentator and expert. Thank you so much for joining us. So, I was talking earlier to our White House correspondent about how good the Queen was at navigating delicate meetings with world leaders. She's met many of them, some of them from Commonwealth nations, some of them from nations that were, colonized by Britain before. And she was able to be a almost non-political political figure. Can you describe the relationships that the Queen had with world leaders?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And actually, partly because it was her constitutional duty. Of course, there's an unwritten constitution in the United Kingdom. It was her constitutional duty as head of state to be non-political, to rise above politics. And she did that so deftly. And I think we can only turn to our President Obama, who said that it was her generosity of spirit, her warm welcome. He and Michelle were, and you're showing photographs now, were welcomed warmly. And of course, Michelle made that ghastly mistake of actually putting her arm around the Queen, but the Queen responded with warmth. She didn't bristle. And I think that's what's so important. And her Commonwealth was part of her family. She kept the Commonwealth together. And remember, members of the Commonwealth did not have to be members of the Commonwealth. They chose to be, and really it has become those with common values and shared trade values. It was very interesting, actually, just an anecdote for you, that in Australia, in the middle of a ceremony with new citizens becoming citizens of Australia, in the middle, it was announced that the Queen had passed. Well, the judge presiding, the magistrate, of course, in the moment, what does he do? He wasn't handed the Operation London Bridge as the plans are known. He immediately had them swear allegiance to the king, in that he wasn't told, he wasn't dictated. The Queen did not have armies that marched in and told him to do so. He did so because he thought it was the right thing, and people wanted him to do that.
And, what's interesting, too, is, you point out that the Commonwealth nations, they are part of this kind of organization by choice. And when she became queen, it was kind of a fledgling kind of partnership, if you will. And she really sort of helped to nurture and keep countries in. I recall there was a time when Ghana looked like it wanted out, and she went to Ghana against the recommendation of the current prime minister because she felt it was important. Can you talk to us about, what the Commonwealth of Nations meant to her? And where do we see the future of this? I call it an organization, but it's kind of something almost different than an organization, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And you're absolutely correct with your history there, because she did go. And also, remember, she danced within the African king. And that was quite revolutionary at the time, to be dancing with. Nowadays, it's absolutely normal to be dancing a white lady with a black gentleman. But she did. And that was her spirit that she was so embracing. I think what's important to remember is when you talk about the Commonwealth, that yes, obviously, the nations are actually choosing to be part of that. In Australia, over the Sydney Opera House, overnight, an effigy of the Queen was projected over the Sydney Opera House. That wasn't dictated that they had to do that. Bells have rung throughout Canada and throughout other Commonwealth companies. This is by choice. Now, what did she do with the Commonwealth? Think about the Commonwealth Games. She always attended the Commonwealth Games and embraced that, and as has King Charles III. I think one thing that really impacted her, they always say, if you want to know the character of a person, look where they were when they were teenagers. She lived through the Second World War. She felt the bombs dropping. She lived through the Blitz. So she knows what war is really like. So she was about peace and about harmony. And think about something revolutionary she also did, going to Northern Ireland. She dipped her head when she went there to acknowledge those that had lost their lives. Her uncle, her beloved Louis Mountbatten, was murdered by the IRA, but she shook hands with the very leader who had commanded that, because she was a lady of forgiveness. And at this time, I hope we can all open our hearts, all be very forgiving, realize the generosity of her spirit across races, across the Commonwealth, across religions. Maybe we could all be like that.
You know, you mentioned that it was her job, sort of not to be political. The new king now has been perhaps training for this position for a very long time. We know an awful lot about his position on some controversial topics like climate change. I'm curious as to how you feel his relationship may change or maybe not. I guess how you think he'll navigate that now? This is obviously a different type of monarch. He's going to be interacting with world leaders. Do you think things will change?
Yes, I think that they will change. You're absolutely right. And it's actually his role has been called a predicament rather than anything else. He's been the longest Prince of Wales ever in waiting. And of course, he's now 73. He's no spring chicken. Can a tiger change its stripes? Can you teach an old dog new tricks? That's the question. However, he takes his role extremely seriously, and he's had obviously this apprenticeship, knowing that his mother was not political. He has made many mistakes, not the least of which, of course, was committing adultery, and now that is forbidden by the Church of England, of which he is head of the Church of England. But even though he's only had a 47% approval rating by YouGov, and the Queen always was over 80%, right now the nation seems to be rallying behind King Charles, and God Save the King has been heard in many places. But I will say it remains to be seen. We need to see how he is accepted. Of course, the Queen did, on her Platinum Jubilee, actually request that the nation open their hearts and accept him, as well as the Queen Consort, that's how Camilla, his wife, will be known, of course, because she's not a queen in her own right.
You know, in talking about Charles and Camilla for that matter, it feels like to me, but you would know better, that there has been sort of an evolution when it comes to the relationship that the British public has with them, that they have become sort of, they have grown in affection for this couple, that it wasn't initially like that. But it seems like people have come around, particularly when it comes to Camilla, who is now the Queen Consort.
You're absolutely right. And I'll tell you the reason specifically why. And that is because the Queen was a lady of duty and dignity. And Camilla has not whined. She has not, as the British call it, whinged. She has not whinged. She's not talked about herself. What has she done? Day in, day out, she's dedicated herself to duty. She's dedicated herself to her man. And she has been a very good influence on Prince Charles. And he has done likewise. He's also been extremely loving to his sons. Actually, he extended an olive branch to Prince Harry, even though obviously he's been lambasted by him with numerous interviews. But Prince Charles has extended a number of olive branches, as the Queen did. So I think you've seen him do his absolute utmost to follow in the leadership and guidance from his mother in terms of being forgiving, being accepted, and being dedicated to duty. So you're right. Yes, the emotions have shifted. It just depends how far they've moved. We don't know that yet.
Yeah, well, you know, it's sort of, somebody said it's not a hard act to follow, it's an impossible act to follow, but perhaps King Charles III will sort of create his own version of the monarchy. Hillary, thank you very much.
Absolutely.